Expand your vocabulary with our Core 2000 Words ebook. It's free and packed with essential expressions that you'll use on a daily basis. Start building your vocabulary today. Click the link in the description below to download your free Chinese ebook before it's gone.
Welcome to Can Do Chinese by ChineseClass101.com.
大家好，我是李英如。Hi everyone, I'm Yinru Li. In this lesson, you will learn how to introduce yourself in Chinese.
This is Mark Lee, and he's on a plane to China. Zhang Zhu, a passenger sitting next to him, introduces himself by saying, "Hello, my name is Zhang Zhu. Pleased to meet you."
你好，我叫朱正，很高兴认识你。
Listen to the conversation and focus on Mark's response. Ready?
你好，我叫朱正，很高兴认识你。
你好，我叫马克里，很高兴认识你。
Once more with the English translation.
你好，我叫朱正，很高兴认识你。
Hello, my name is Zheng Chu. Pleased to meet you.
你好，我叫马克里，很高兴认识你。
Hello, my name is Mark Lee. Pleased to meet you.
Let's take a closer look at Mark's response.
Do you remember how Mark Lee introduces himself? Hello, my name is Mark Lee. Pleased to meet you.
"你好，我叫马克里，很高兴认识你。"
First is
你好，
meaning hello.
你好，你好。
This is a commonly used greeting, and it is often said when meeting people for the first time. This starts with the word
你
you.
你
Next is the word
好
good.
好
Together, it's
你好
this phrase literally means you good, but translates as hello.
你好
Pronunciation note: when there are two third tones in a row, the first one changes to the second tone. Listen to the pronunciation again.
你好 你好
This pronunciation change is not reflected in the pinyin, as you will still see two third tones. Before we look at how Mark introduces his name, let's look at the last part of Mark's response.
很高兴认识你
Nice to meet you, or pleased to meet you.
很高兴认识你
First is
很
very.
很
This is followed by
高兴
translating as pleased in this context.
高兴
Next is
认识
to know.
认识
Last is the word
你
you.
你
Altogether,
很高兴认识你
literally, very pleased to know you, but it translates as pleased to meet you.
很高兴认识你
When meeting someone for the first time, you'll often hear this phrase, but omitting it in favor of a simple
你好
is often enough. Do you remember how Mark Lee says, "My name is Mark Lee"?
我叫马克里。
First is
我
I.
我
Next is the word
叫
which translates as to be called.
叫
Together it's
我叫
literally I'm called, but it translates as my name is.
我叫
This phrase is used to introduce one's own name. Next is Mark Lee's name.
马克里
Note, there is often a short pause between the first and the last name. For example,
马克里
first is Mark's given name,
马克
Mark.
马克
Followed by his family name,
李
Lee.
李
Altogether,
我叫马克里
I am called Mark Lee.
我叫马克里
When giving foreign names in Chinese, the name order follows the order of the original language. For example, Mark Lee translates to
马克里
as the name order in English is given name followed by family name. For Chinese names, the order is family name followed by given names. Zhang Ju uses this order when he says
我叫朱正，
his family name
朱
is followed by his given name.
正
The pattern is
我叫 name
my name is name.
我叫 name
To use this pattern, simply replace the name placeholder with your name. Imagine you're Karen Lee. In Chinese,
凯伦里凯伦里凯伦里
say, my name is Karen Lee. Ready?
我叫凯伦里，
My name is Karen Lee.
我叫凯伦里。
When introducing yourself as a Chinese learner, you might want to use just your given name. 我叫凯伦 My name is Karen. 我叫凯伦 You can feel free to use the name you would like to be called.
Let's look at some examples. Listen and repeat, or speak along with the native speakers.
你好，我叫朱正，很高兴认识你。你好，我叫朱正，很高兴认识你。
你好，我叫马克里，很高兴认识你。你好，我叫马克里，很高兴认识你。
你好，我叫凯伦里，很高兴认识你。你好，我叫凯伦里，很高兴认识你。
你好，我叫李音如，很高兴认识你。你好，我叫李音如，很高兴认识你。
你好，我是李林，很高兴认识你。你好，我是李林，很高兴认识你。
Did you notice how the last speaker uses a different sentence pattern?
She says,
我是李林，
I'm Lin Lee.
我是李林。
First is,
我
I.
我
Next is,
是
in this case, it's like the am in I am.
是
Together,
我是
I am.
我是
Last is the speaker's name.
李林
Note the name order, last name,
李
followed by given name.
林
Altogether,
我是李林
I'm Lin Li.
我是李林
This is also a common way to introduce yourself. The pattern is,
我是 name
I am name.
我是 name
Do you remember my introduction at the start of the lesson? 我是李映如 I'm 映如李我是李映如 My introduction follows the pattern of 我是 name I am name 我是 name
You should be aware of this pattern, but for this lesson, we'll use the sentence pattern.
我叫 name
My name is name.
我叫 name
Welcome to Can Do Chinese by ChineseClass101.com.
大家好，我是李映如 Hi everyone, I'm 映如李 In this lesson, you will learn how to tell someone where you're from in Chinese.
This is Mark Lee, and he's on a plane to China. Zhang Ju, a passenger sitting next to him, asks him, "Where are you from?"
你是哪里人？
Listen to the conversation and focus on Mark's response. Ready?
你是哪里人？
我是美国人。
Once more with the English translation.
你是哪里人？
Where are you from?
我是美国人。
I'm an American.
Let's take a closer look at the conversation.
Do you remember how Zheng Zhu asks, "Where are you from?"
你是哪里人？
First is
你
you.
你
Next is
是
here, it's like the R in you are.
是
Together,
你是
you are.
你是
Next is
哪里
where.
哪里
Pronunciation note. When there are two third tones in a row, the first one changes to the second tone. Listen to the pronunciation again.
哪里
The pronunciation differs from the pinyin, where you will still see two third tones. After this,
人
person.
人
Together
哪里人
literally means where person.
哪里人
Altogether, it's
你是哪里人
literally you are where person, but it translates as where are you from?
你是哪里人？
Remember this question. You'll hear it again later in this lesson.
Now, let's take a closer look at the response.
Do you remember how Mark Lee says, "I'm an American"?
我是美国人。
First is
我
I.
我
Next is
是
here it's like the am in I am.
是
Together,
我是
I am.
我是
Next is,
美国
which literally means beautiful country, but it translates as the United States of America.
美国美国
Last is,
人
person.
人人
Together,
美国人
literally means United States of America person, or an American.
美国人
Note,
美国人
is a noun, not an adjective. Altogether,
我是美国人
means I'm an American.
我是美国人。
The pattern is,
我是 home country 人
I'm a noun for person of home country.
我是 home country 人
To use this pattern, simply replace the home country placeholder with the name of your country. Imagine you're from Australia in Chinese.
澳大利亚澳大利亚澳大利亚
Say, I'm an Australian. Ready?
我是澳大利亚人。
I'm an Australian.
我是澳大利亚人。
Let's look at some examples. Listen and repeat, or speak along with the native speakers.
我是美国人。我是美国人。
我是中国人。我是中国人。
我是澳大利亚人。我是澳大利亚人。
我是加拿大人。我是加拿大人。
我是英国人。我是英国人。
我是武汉人。我是武汉人。Did you notice how I used a city name in place of a country name? 我是武汉人。I'm a Wuhan person. 我是武汉人。I used a city name, Wuhan, in place of a country name, 中国 China.
武汉
Wuhan.
武汉武汉
You can use this response to answer the question.
你是哪里人
The key word in the question is
哪里
where. In addition to countries, it can refer to any place, including cities and towns. This pattern is
我是 hometown 人
I'm a hometown person.
我是 hometown 人
You should be aware of this pattern, but for this lesson, we'll use the pattern
我是 home country 人
I'm a noun for person of home country.
我是 home country 人
Welcome to Can Do Chinese by ChineseClass101.com.
大家好，我是李英如。Hi everyone, I'm Yinru Li. In this lesson, you will learn how to talk about your occupation in Chinese.
This is Mark Lee, and he's on a plane to China. He asks the passenger sitting next to him, Zheng Zhu, "Are you a student?"
你是学生吗？
Listen to the conversation and focus on Zheng's response. Ready?
你是学生吗？
我不是学生，我是投资商。
Once more with the English translation.
你是学生吗？
Are you a student?
我不是学生，我是投资商。
I'm not a student. I'm an investor.
Let's take a closer look at the conversation.
Do you remember how Mark asks, "Are you a student?"
你是学生吗？
First is
你
you,
你
next is
是
here, it's like the R in are you.
是
After this is
学生
student.
学生
Last is
吗
this is a question marking particle.
吗
This particle turns the sentence into a question. Altogether, it's
你是学生吗
literally, you are student, but it translates as, are you a student?
你是学生吗？
Remember this question. You'll hear it again later.
Now, let's take a closer look at the response.
Do you remember how Zheng says, "I'm not a student. I'm an investor"?
我不是学生，我是投资商。
First, Zheng says,
我不是学生
"I'm not a student."
我不是学生
First is
我
I.
我
Next is
不是
here, am not, as in I am not.
不是
This starts with
不
not. It's used to form a negative.
不
Next is
是
here, am, as in I am not.
是
Together,
不是
here, am not.
不是
Pronunciation note: when
不
is followed by a fourth tone, its tone changes from the fourth tone to the second tone. Listen to the pronunciation again.
不是
Altogether,
我不是
I am not.
我不是
Next is
学生
student.
学生
Altogether,
我不是学生
I'm not a student.
我不是学生
Finally, Zheng says,
我是投资商
I'm an investor.
我是投资商
First is
我
I.
我
Next is
是
here, am, as in I am.
是
After this is
投资商
investor.
投资商
Altogether, it's
我不是学生，我是投资商。
I'm not a student. I'm an investor.
我不是学生，我是投资商。
The pattern is
我不是，
occupation,
我是，
actual occupation. I'm not occupation. I'm actual occupation.
我不是，
Occupation,
我是，
actual occupation. Imagine you're Emma Liu, a student.
学生，
Zheng asks you if you're a teacher.
老师，老师，老师，
Say, I'm not a teacher. I'm a student. Ready?
我不是老师，我是学生。
I'm not a teacher. I'm a student.
我不是老师，我是学生。
Let's look at some more examples. Listen and repeat, or speak along with the native speakers.
我不是学生，我是投资商。我不是学生，我是投资商。
我不是老师，我是学生。我不是老师，我是学生。
我不是老师，我是工程师。我不是老师，我是工程师。
我不是护士，我是医生。我不是护士，我是医生。
我不是学生，我是老师。我不是学生，我是老师。
不是，我是咖啡师。不是，我是咖啡师。
Did you notice how the last speaker starts by simply saying 不是?
不是，我是咖啡师。
No, I'm a barista.
不是，我是咖啡师。
When directly responding to someone's question, it's often possible to simply answer
不是，
here, no.
不是，
You are negating the incorrect statement and can then state your actual occupation. This pattern is
不是，我是，
occupation. No, I'm occupation.
不是，我是，
Occupation. You should be aware of this pattern, but for this lesson, we'll use the pattern
我不是，
occupation,
我是，
actual occupation. I'm not occupation. I'm actual occupation.
我不是，
Occupation,
我是。
actual occupation. Welcome to Can Do Chinese by ChineseClass101.com.
大家好，我是李燕如。Hi everyone, I'm Yanru Li. In this lesson, you will learn how to give your phone number.
This is Mark Lee, and he's at City Hall registering his address. The civil servant who is helping him asks, "What is your phone number?"
您的电话号码是多少？
Listen to the conversation and focus on the response. Ready?
您的电话号码是多少？
我的电话号码是123-4567-8910。
Once more with the English translation.
您的电话号码是多少？
What is your phone number?
我的电话号码是123-4567-8910。
My phone number is 123-4567-8910.
Let's take a closer look at the conversation.
Do you remember how the civil servant asks, "What is your phone number?"
您的电话号码是多少？
First,
您的，
your.
您的，
This starts with
您，
you when using formal Chinese.
您，您，您，
Is often used to show respect to people, such as seniors or customers.
您，
Now, you might be more familiar with
你，
meaning you.
你，
As this is a city office setting, the speaker chooses to use a more formal.
您
Next is
的，
the possessive marking particle.
的，的，
Think of
的，
as a way to indicate possession. The word it follows possesses the thing that comes after it. In this sentence, it marks
您，
you as the possessor. Together, it's
您的，
a formal way to say your.
您的，
Next is
电话号码，
phone number.
电话号码，电话，
Phone.
电话，电话，号码，
Number.
号码，号码，
Together, it's
电话号码，
phone number.
电话号码。
Remember this because you'll see it again in Mark's response. Next is,
是，
in this case, it's like the is in what is your phone number?
是，是，
After this is
多少，
what?
多少，多少，多少。
Literally means a lot, a little. It's used to ask about quantities or numbers, and it usually translates as how many. As a phone number is a set of numbers,
多少，
is used in the question. Here, however, it translates as what in the question, what is your phone number? Altogether, it's
您的电话号码是多少？
this literally means your phone number is how many, but translates as what is your phone number?
您的电话号码是多少？
Remember this request. You'll hear it again later.
Let's take a closer look at the response.
Do you remember how Mark says, "My phone number is 123-4567-8910"?
"我的电话号码是123-4567-8910。"
First is
我的，
my.
我的，
This starts with
我，
I.
我，我
After this is
的，
the possessive marking particle.
的，
Together, it's
我的，
my.
我的
Next, do you remember the word for phone number?
电话号码
Phone number.
电话号码
Together
我的电话号码
means my phone number.
我的电话号码
Next is
是
is. Here, it's like the is in my phone number is.
是
Next is Mark's phone number.
12345678910 12345678910
Note how Mark says his phone number. First, he says each number independently.
123
Second, the number 1 is pronounced
1
instead of
1
in this dialogue. This is often the case when giving phone numbers. The reason? The pronunciation of the number 1
1
is similar to the pronunciation of the number 7.
7
This could be confusing, especially when you're talking over the phone or speaking quickly. Altogether, it's
我的电话号码是12345678910
My phone number is 12345678910.
我的电话号码是12345678910。
The pattern is
我的电话号码是
phone number. My phone number is phone number.
我的电话号码是
Phone number. To use this pattern, simply replace the phone number placeholder with your phone number. Imagine your phone number is
1112233 2233 1112233 2233
Say, my phone number is 111-2233-2233. Ready?
我的电话号码是111-2233-2233。
My phone number is 111-2233-2233.
我的电话号码是111-2233-2233。
In China, cell phone numbers are often written without hyphens or spaces between the digits. When speaking, however, the digits are often grouped in the following format: 3 digits, 4 digits, and 4 digits, with pauses in between. For example, 123-4567-8910. For Latin numbers, such as for office and home phones, a hyphen is often put after the area code. When giving an office or home number, simply pause in place of the hyphen.
Let's look at some examples. Listen and repeat, or speak along with the native speakers.
我的电话号码是12345678910。
我的电话号码是030-1212-3434。
我的电话号码是11155785578。
我的电话号码是987654325432。
我的号码是67844557788。Did you notice how I omitted 电话？我的号码是67844557788。
My number is 678-4455-7788. When directly responding to a question, it's often possible to omit part of the response. Here, by simply saying
号码
or number, there is no need to include
电话
phone. The pattern is
我的号码是
phone number. My number is phone number.
我的号码是
Phone number. This can be shortened even further.
67844557788。
Here, by simply giving your phone number, there's no need to say,
我的电话号码是
My phone number is. You should be aware of this pattern, but for this lesson, we'll use the pattern
我的电话号码是
phone number. My phone number is phone number.
我的电话号码是
Phone number. Welcome to Can Do Chinese by ChineseClass101.com.
大家好，我是李嫣如。Hi everyone, I'm Yanru Li. In this lesson, you will learn how to talk about your family.
This is Ben Lee, and he's at a coffee shop with his classmate, Lu Liu. Ben is showing her some pictures. She points to one of them and asks, Is this your family?
这是你的家人吗？
Listen to the conversation and focus on the response. Ready?
这是你的家人吗？
是的，这是我的爸爸妈妈妹妹和我。
Once more with the English translation.
这是你的家人吗？
Is this your family?
是的，这是我的爸爸妈妈妹妹和我。
Yes, it is. This is my father, mother, younger sister, and me.
Let's take a closer look at the conversation.
Do you remember how Lu asks, Is this your family?
这是你的家人吗？
First is
这
this.
这
Next is,
是
in this case, it's like the is in this is.
是
After this is,
你的
meaning your.
你的
There are two parts. First is
你
you.
你
Second is
的
a possessive marking particle.
的
Think of
的
as a way to indicate possession. The word it follows possesses the thing that comes after it. In this sentence, it marks
你
you as the possessor. Together,
你的
your.
你的
Next is
家人
family.
家人 家人，
There are two parts. First is
家，
home or family.
家，家，
Next is
人，
person or people.
人，人，
Together it's
家人，
literally home people, but translates as family.
家人，
Last is
妈，
this is a question marking particle. It turns a sentence into a question.
妈，妈，
Altogether it's
这是你的家人吗？
literally this is your family, but it translates as is this your family?
这是你的家人吗？
Remember this question. You'll hear it again later.
Let's take a closer look at the response.
Do you remember how Ben says, yes, it is. This is my father, mother, younger sister, and me.
是的，这是我的爸爸妈妈妹妹和我。
There are two parts to the response. First is
是的，
which translates as yes, it is in this context.
是的，
This starts with
是，
meaning yes when responding to a yes-no question.
是，是，
Note
是，
is used to affirmatively answer questions that contain
是，
like
这是你的家人吗？
is this your family? By replying with
是，
you are affirming the information in the question. It's followed by
的，
which is a sentence final particle that indicates the speaker is certain about what he or she is saying.
的，
In this case, Ben, the speaker, is certain this is his family. Together
是的，
is a set phrase meaning yes, it is, in this case.
是的，
Note, it is understood from context, as this is a response to the question. After this, Ben points to the picture and says,
这是我的爸爸妈妈妹妹和我。
this is my father, mother, younger sister, and me. First is
这，
this.
这，
Next is,
是，
in this case, it's like the is in this is.
是，
Together,
这是，
this is.
这是
After this,
我的，
meaning my.
我的，
There are two parts. First is
我，
I.
我，我
Next is
的，
the possessive marking particle.
的，
Together,
我的，
my.
我的，
Next is
爸爸，
father.
爸爸，爸爸，
Together,
我的爸爸，
my father.
我的爸爸，
Next is
妈妈，
mother.
妈妈，妈妈，
After this is
妹妹，
younger sister.
妹妹，妹妹，
Next is
和
and.
和
Finally, he points at himself in the picture and says,
我
translating as me in this context.
我
Altogether,
这是我的爸爸妈妈妹妹和我
this is my father, mother, younger sister, and me.
这是我的爸爸妈妈妹妹和我。
The pattern is,
这是我的 family member family member family member 和我
this is my family member, family member, family member, and me. To use this pattern, simply replace the family member placeholders with your family members. Imagine your family members are your father, mother, older brother, and you. Older brother is,
哥哥哥哥哥哥
say, this is my father, mother, older brother, and me. Ready?
这是我的爸爸妈妈哥哥和我。
This is my father, mother, older brother, and me.
这是我的爸爸妈妈哥哥和我。
In more casual situations, 我的爸爸 my father can be shortened to 我爸。The possessive marking particle 的 as in 我的爸爸 can be omitted, and 爸爸 can be shortened to 爸我爸。In the case of my mother 我的妈妈 it becomes 我妈。This shortened pattern can also be used with other family members. You should be aware of this, but you won't need it for this lesson.
Let's look at some more examples. Listen and repeat or speak along with the native speakers.
这是我的爸爸妈妈妹妹和我。这是我的爸爸妈妈妹妹和我。
这是我的爸爸妈妈哥哥和我。这是我的爸爸妈妈哥哥和我。
这是我的爸爸妈妈姐姐和我。这是我的爸爸妈妈姐姐和我。
这是我的爸爸妈妈姐姐弟弟和我。这是我的爸爸妈妈姐姐弟弟和我。
这是我的爸爸妈妈还有我。这是我的爸爸妈妈还有我。Did you notice how I used a slightly different pattern? 这是我的爸爸妈妈还有我。This is my father, mother, and also me. I used 还有 instead of 和。还有 and also 还有还有。
The pattern is
family member 还有我
family member and also me. You should be aware of this pattern, but for this lesson we use the pattern
family member 和我
family member and me. Welcome to Can Do Chinese by ChineseClass101.com.
大家好，我是李英如。Hi everyone, I'm Yinru Li. In this lesson, you will learn how to talk about your family from a parent's perspective.
This is Karen Lee, and she's studying with her Chinese teacher, Lin Li. The teacher notices a picture on Karen's computer and asks, "Is this your family?"
这是你的家人吗？
Listen to the conversation and focus on the response. Ready?
这是你的家人吗？
是的，这是我的先生、儿子、女儿和我。
Once more with the English translation.
这是你的家人吗？
Is this your family?
是的，这是我的先生、儿子、女儿和我。
Yes, it is. This is my husband, son, daughter, and me.
Let's take a closer look at the conversation.
Do you remember how the teacher asks, "Is this your family?"
这是你的家人吗？
First is
这
this.
这
Next is,
是
in this case, it's like the is in this is.
是
After this is,
你的
meaning your.
你的
There are two parts. First is
你
you.
你
Second is
的
a possessive marking particle.
的
Think of
的
as a way to indicate possession. The word it follows possesses the thing that comes after it. In this sentence, it marks
你
you as the possessor. Together,
你的
your.
你的
Next is
家人
family.
家人
This has two parts. First is
家
home or family.
家
Next is
人
person or people.
人
Together it's
家人
literally home people, but translates as family.
家人
Last is
吗
this is a question marking particle. It turns a sentence into a question.
吗
Altogether it's
这是你的家人吗
this is your family, but it translates as is this your family?
这是你的家人吗？
Remember this question. You'll hear it again later.
Let's take a closer look at the response.
Do you remember how Karen says, "Yes, it is. This is my husband, son, daughter, and me."
是的，这是我的先生、儿子、女儿和我。
There are two parts to the response. First is
是的
which translates as yes, it is in this context.
是的
This starts with
是
meaning yes when responding to a yes/no question.
是
Note
是
is used to affirmatively answer questions that contain
是
like
这是你的家人吗
is this your family? By replying with,
是
you are affirming the information in the question. It's followed by,
的
which in this case is a sentence final particle that indicates the speaker is certain about what he or she is saying.
的
Together
是的
is a set phrase meaning, yes, it is.
是的
Note, it is understood from context, as this is a response to the question. After this, Karen points to the picture and says,
这是我的先生、儿子、女儿和我。
This is my husband, son, daughter, and me. First is
这
this.
这
Next is,
是
in this case, it's like the is in this is.
是
Together,
这是
this is.
这是
After this,
我的
meaning my.
我的
There are two parts. First is
我
I.
我
Next is
的
the possessive marking particle.
的
Together,
我的
my.
我的
Next is
先生
the formal way to say husband.
先生先生
Together,
我的先生
my husband.
我的先生
Next is
儿子
son.
儿子儿子
After this is
女儿
daughter.
女儿女儿
Next is
和
and.
和
Finally, she points at herself in the picture and says,
我
translating as me in this context.
我
Altogether, it's
这是我的先生、儿子、女儿和我。
this is my husband, son, daughter, and me.
这是我的先生、儿子、女儿和我。
The pattern is
这是我的 family member, family member, family member 和我。
this is my family member, family member, family member, and me. To use this pattern, simply replace the family member placeholders with your family members. Imagine your family members are your wife, son, daughter, and you. Wife is
太太太太太太
say, this is my wife, son, daughter, and me. Ready?
这是我的太太、儿子、女儿和我。
This is my wife, son, daughter, and me.
这是我的太太、儿子、女儿和我。
In this lesson, you learned two relatively formal words for husband and wife. 先生 husband and 太太 wife. In less formal situations, the following words are commonly used. 老公 husband 老公老婆 wife. 老婆老婆
Let's look at some more examples. Listen and repeat or speak along with the native speakers.
这是我的先生、儿子、女儿和我。这是我的先生、儿子、女儿和我。
这是我的太太、儿子、女儿和我。这是我的太太、儿子、女儿和我。
这是我的太太、女儿和我。这是我的太太、女儿和我。
这是我的先生、儿子和我。这是我的先生、儿子和我。这是我的先生、我的2个儿子和我。这是我的先生、我的2个儿子和我。
Did you notice how the last speaker indicates she has 2 sons?
这是我的先生、我的2个儿子和我。
This is my husband, my 2 sons, and me.
2个儿子，
2 sons.
2个儿子，
First,
2个，
literally means 2 counts of, or 2 of something, and is usually followed by a noun.
2个，
There are 2 parts.
2
2.
2 2
Note, you might be familiar with another word for 2.
2 2
Is used when referring to the quantity of something. Next is
个
a general measure word.
个个
In Chinese, think of a measure word as a counting word, which is used with a numeral to indicate the number of a noun. The pattern is numeral plus measure word plus noun. For example, in this case it's
2个儿子，
2 sons
2
plus
个
plus.
儿子，
To say 2 daughters,
2个女儿，2个女儿，
you should be aware of the pattern to describe the number of children, but you will not need it for this lesson. Welcome to Can Do Chinese by ChineseClass101.com.
大家好，我是李英如。Hi everyone, I'm Yinru Li. In this lesson, you will learn how to greet someone at different times of the day.
This is Lin Li, the Li family's Chinese teacher. Her schedule for the day is Mark Li at 9 a.m., Karen Li at 12 p.m., Ben Li at 6 p.m. Listen to the greeting exchange between the 3 pairs. Pay attention to the time of day.
李老师，早上好。
早上好。
你好，李老师。
你好，凯伦。
晚上好，李老师。
晚上好，本。
Once more with the English translation.
李老师，早上好。
Miss Li, good morning.
早上好。
Good morning.
你好，李老师。
Hello, Miss Lee.
你好，凯伦。
Hello, Karen.
晚上好，李老师。
Good evening, Miss Lee.
晚上好，本。
Good evening, Ben.
Let's take a closer look at each of these expressions.
In the first conversation, do you remember how Mark says, Miss Lee, good morning?
李老师，早上好。
First, Mark addresses his teacher.
李老师，
This starts with the teacher's family name, Lee.
李，李，李，
After this is,
老师，
literally, teacher. But here it's used as a suffix.
老师，老师，
Together,
李老师，
literally Lee teacher, but it translates as Miss Lee in this context.
李老师，
Note, when
老师，
is used as a suffix, the meaning will depend on the context. The next part of the greeting is
早上好，
good morning.
早上好，
First is
早上，
morning. To be more specific, early morning, which is roughly the time between sunrise to 10 o'clock.
早上，早上，
Next is
好，
good.
好，好，
Together,
早上好，
good morning.
早上好，
Altogether,
李老师，早上好，
Miss Lee, good morning.
李老师，早上好。
Do you remember the teacher's response? Good morning.
早上好。
She simply repeats the same greeting.
早上好，
Good morning.
早上好，
Since teachers in Chinese culture have a higher social status, it's not necessary for them to address their students when greeting them. In the second conversation, which takes place at noon, do you remember how Karen says, Hello, Miss Lee?
你好，李老师。
First is
你好，
hello.
你好，
There are two parts. First is
你，
you.
你，你，
Next is
好，
good.
好，好，
Together,
你好，
literally means you good, but translates as hello.
你好，
Pronunciation note. When there are two third tones in a row, the first one changes to the second tone. Listen to the pronunciation again.
你好，你好，
This pronunciation change is not reflected in the pinyin, as you will still see two third tones. Note,
你好，
can be used during any time of the day, even at night. In addition,
你好，
can be used in formal settings. Next is
李老师，
Miss Lee in this context.
李老师，
Together,
你好，李老师，
Hello, Miss Lee.
你好，李老师。
Now, do you remember how the teacher responds? Hello, Karen.
你好，凯伦。
This starts with the phrase,
你好，
hello.
你好，你好，
Next is Karen's name in Chinese.
凯伦，凯伦，凯伦，
Altogether,
你好，凯伦。
hello, Karen.
你好，凯伦。
In the third conversation, which takes place in the evening at 6 p.m., do you remember how Ben says, Good evening, Miss Lee?
晚上好，李老师。
First is,
晚上好，
Good evening.
晚上好，
The first part is,
晚上，
evening, or night.
晚上，晚上，
Next is,
好，
good.
好，
Together,
晚上好，
good evening.
晚上好，
Then Ben addresses the teacher as
李老师，
Miss Lee.
李老师，
Altogether,
晚上好，李老师。
good evening, Miss Lee.
晚上好，李老师。
Note, in Chinese, a person's name or title can be placed either before or after the greetings. So it could be either
晚上好，李老师。
or
李老师，晚上好。
Do you remember how the teacher responds? Good evening, Ben.
晚上好，本。
First is
晚上好，
good evening.
晚上好。
This is the same as Ben's greeting. Next is Ben's name in Chinese.
本，本，本，
晚上好，本。
In Chinese greetings, 好, good, follows the time of the day, as in 早上好, good morning. 好 also follow a title, as in 老师好, teacher hello, or follow a name and title, such as 李老师好, Miss Lee, hello. A title followed by 好 or name and title followed by 好 is often used to greet someone with a higher social status than the speaker, such as a teacher, supervisor, or a senior family member. This pattern sounds more polite and personal than 你好. Let's look at the greetings once more. Listen and repeat or speak along with me. 早上好，早上好，你好，你好，晚上好，晚上好，你好，李老师，你好，李老师，早，早。Did you notice how I used the shortened version of good morning? 早
Morning.
早，早，早，
is a shortened and more casual way to say
早上好。
good morning. You should be aware of this shortened greeting but you won't need it for this lesson. Welcome to Can Do Chinese by ChineseClass101.com.
大家好，我是李英如。Hi everyone, I'm Yinru Li. In this lesson, you will learn how to use parting greetings.
This is Karen Lee, and she's talking with her former homestay mother, Xiaoyun Xu. As Karen says goodbye, her children join her in saying goodnight. Focus on the way each person says goodbye.
再见。晚安。
晚安。
晚安，拜拜。
Once more with the English translation.
再见。
See you again.
晚安。
Good night.
晚安。
Good night.
晚安，拜拜。
Good night. Bye-bye.
Let's take a closer look at each of these expressions.
First, do you remember how Karen says, see you again?
再见。
This starts with
在
meaning again.
在
Next is
见
to see.
见
Together
再见
literally means again to see, but it translates as see you again.
再见。
再见
Can be used in both formal and informal situations. Do you remember how Sasha says, good night?
晚安。
Good night.
晚安晚安
First is,
晚
which means night in this context.
晚
Next is
安
safe or peaceful.
安
Together
晚安
literally means night safe or night peaceful, but translates as good night.
晚安。
晚安
Is used when you don't plan on seeing someone again that night, most likely before they go to bed. Both Sasha and Ben use this expression to say good night to Xiaoyun Xu. Do you remember how Xiaoyun says, good night, bye-bye?
晚安，拜拜。
The first part is the same expression Sasha and Ben use,
晚安
good night.
晚安
The second part,
拜拜
bye-bye.
拜拜
This expression comes from the English bye-bye. Listen again to the pronunciation.
拜拜拜拜拜拜
Is often used in informal situations with close friends and with younger people. Altogether,
晚安拜拜
good night, bye-bye.
晚安，拜拜。
Let's look at the parting greetings once more. Listen and repeat, or speak along with me. 再见，再见。晚安，晚安，晚安，拜拜。晚安，拜拜。 拜拜，拜拜，下次见，下次见。Did you notice the last parting greeting I used? 下次见。
See you next time.
下次见，
First is
下次，
next time.
下次，
Next is
见，
to see.
见，
Together,
下次见，
literally, next time to see. But it translates as see you next time.
下次见。
Welcome to Can Do Chinese by ChineseClass101.com.
大家好，我是李英如。Hi everyone, I'm Yinru Li. In this lesson, you will learn essential Chinese social expressions such as thank you.
This is Ben Lee, and he's on the train. A fellow passenger drops his wallet as he exits the train. Ben picks up the wallet and chases after the man. He calls to the man by saying, "Sir, please, wait a minute."
先生，请等一下。
Listen to the following 3 short dialogues between Ben and the man.
先生，请等一下。
怎么了？
Ben hands the man the wallet.
谢谢你。
不客气。
Ben turns to board the train, but the door's shut.
不好意思。
没事儿。
Once more with the English translation.
先生，请等一下。
Sir, please wait a minute.
怎么了？
What's the matter? Ben hands the man the wallet.
谢谢你。
Thank you.
不客气。
Don't mention it. Ben turns to board the train, but the door's shut.
不好意思。
Sorry.
没事儿。
It's okay.
Let's take a closer look at these 3 conversations.
First, do you remember how Ben Lee says, "Sir, please wait a minute"?
先生，请等一下。
First is
先生，
Sir or Mr.
先生，先生，
Note, it can be used alone, such as in this case, or as a polite suffix following a name. Next is
请等一下，
please wait a minute.
请等一下，
This has 3 parts. First is
请，
please.
请，请，
Next is
等，
to wait.
等，等，
Finally,
一下，
meaning something like a bit, as in please wait a bit.
一下，一下，一下，
is an everyday phrase used with a verb to describe a brief action, and often to soften a command or request. In this sentence,
一下，
follows
等，
to wait. Together
等一下，
means to wait for a bit, or to wait a minute.
等一下，
Altogether,
先生，请等一下。
Sir, please wait a minute.
先生，请等一下。
Do you remember how the passenger responds by saying, What's the matter?
怎么了？
怎么了？
What's the matter?
怎么了？
Note, this is a set phrase that can translate as, What's the matter? What's wrong? What happened? It's used when you don't know what has happened. In this case, the speaker wants to know why he was called. The second part of the conversation takes place after Ben returns the passenger's wallet. Do you remember how the passenger says, Thank you?
谢谢你。
This expression has two parts. First is,
谢谢，
Thanks, or Thank you.
谢谢，谢谢。
Next is,
你，
You.
你，你，
In most cases,
谢谢，
is enough to express gratitude. By following
谢谢，
with,
你，
it expresses a more personal and heartfelt appreciation in a subtle way. However, the meaning doesn't change. Altogether,
谢谢你，
thank you.
谢谢你。
Do you remember how Ben says, Don't mention it?
不客气。
This expression can be divided into two parts. First is,
不，
meaning not.
不，不，
It is used to negate verbs and adjectives. Pronunciation note. When
不，
is followed by a fourth tone, its tone changes from the fourth tone to the second tone. Listen to the pronunciation again.
不客气，
Next is
客气，
courteous. More specifically, to treat someone with hospitality and formality.
客气，客气，
Together,
不客气，
literally means no need to be courteous, no need for the formalities, but often translates as don't mention it, or you're welcome.
不客气。
不客气，
Is a common response to the phrase,
谢谢。
after the train doors shut and Ben misses his train, do you remember how the passenger apologizes to Ben by saying, sorry?
不好意思。
In this case, the expression is used to apologize for causing Ben inconvenience. Let's start with
好意思，
literally good meaning or good intention, but together it's a phrase meaning to feel no shame.
好意思，
First is
好，
meaning good.
好，
Next is
意思，
meaning.
意思，
Before the phrase is
不，
meaning not.
不，不，
Altogether,
不好意思，
literally not feel no shame. In other words, ashamed or embarrassed.
不好意思。
The speaker feels ashamed or embarrassed for causing Ben inconvenience. So the phrase means sorry in this case.
不好意思，不好意思，
Do you remember how Ben replies, "It's okay"?
没事儿，
First is
没
not or have not.
没
Next is
事儿
matter or issue.
事儿
Together,
没事儿
literally means no issues, but it translates as it's okay.
没事儿
没事儿，
没事儿
Is a common response to apologies, but it is sometimes used to respond to thank you as well.
In addition to 不好意思, another commonly used expression to say sorry is 对不起. It consists of 3 characters. 对 to face. 不 not. 起 literally to rise, but to be able to do something in this case. Together, 对不起 means something like unable to face you, but it translates as I'm sorry. 对不起. This is a stronger apology than 不好意思. Use it when you've done something wrong you feel strongly about. 对不起. You can use it as a standalone phrase or together with longer phrases. In addition to 不客气, another common way to respond to thank you is 不用谢. You're welcome. 不用谢. 不用 means no need. 不用. And 谢 to thank. 谢. Together it's 不用谢. Literally, no need to thank, but translates as you're welcome. 不用谢 and 不客气 are interchangeable. It's up to you which one to use. Let's look at the expressions once more. Listen and repeat, or speak along with me. 请等一下. 请等一下. 怎么了? 怎么了? 谢谢你. 谢谢你. 不客气. 不客气. 不好意思. 不好意思. 没事儿. 没事儿. 对不起. 对不起. Did you notice the last expression I used? 对不起.对不起.
Sorry. You learned about this expression in the Cultural Insight section. A common response to this expression is
没关系
don't worry about it.
没关系
First is
没
to not or to not have.
没
Next is
关系
relationship.
关系
Together,
没关系
literally means to not have a relationship, but it translates as don't worry about it in this context.
没关系
Note, you can also use
没关系
to respond to someone's apology. You should be aware of this commonly used phrase, but you won't need it for this lesson. Welcome to Can Do Chinese by ChineseClass101.com.
大家好，我是李英如. Hi everyone, I'm Yinru Li. In this lesson, you will learn how to ask about someone's well-being.
This is Mark Lee, and he's in the office break room. He greets Wei Huang, a colleague, and asks, "How are you?"
你好吗？
Listen to the conversation and focus on the question. Ready?
你好吗？
我很好。
Once more with the English translation.
你好吗？
How are you?
我很好。
I'm good.
Let's take a closer look at the conversation.
First, do you remember how Mark asks Wei, "How are you?"
你好吗？
First is
你
you.
你
Next is
好
good.
好
Pronunciation note. When there are two third tones in a row, the first one changes to the second tone. Listen to the pronunciation again.
你好
Last is
吗
the question marking particle. It turns the sentence into a question.
吗
Altogether,
你好吗
literally, you good? But it translates as, how are you?
你好吗？
Let's take a closer look at the response.
Do you remember how Wei says, I'm good?
我很好。
First is
我
I.
我
Next is
很
very.
很
Last is
好
good.
好
Pronunciation note. Here there are three third tones in a row. The first two change to the second tone. Listen to the pronunciation again.
我很好
Altogether,
我很好
literally, I very good, but translates as I am good.
我很好。
Note, there is no linking verb in this sentence. Instead,
很
is placed between the noun
我
and adjective.
好
This is a common pattern when describing a noun with an adjective. Noun,
很
adjective.
When talking to someone of higher social status, such as a superior at the office, seniors, etc., you can say 您好吗? How are you? 您好吗? This starts with 您, you, when using formal Chinese. 您 您 is often used to show respect to people. Remember this phrase, 您好吗? How are you? You'll need it again later. Note, Chinese native speakers are more likely to ask about each other's well-being when they haven't seen each other for a while. When you want to show your concern because the other person does not look so well, a good phrase to use is 你还好吗? Are you all right? 你还好吗?
Let's look at some more examples. Listen and repeat, or speak along with the native speakers.
你好吗？
我很好。
你好吗？
我很好。你好吗？
我一般般，
你好吗？
我一般般，
您好吗？
我很好，
您好吗？
我很好，
你好吗？
很好，你呢？
你好吗？
很好，你呢？Did you notice I shortened the response and added the phrase 你呢？很好，你呢？很好，你呢？
I'm good. And you?
很好，
Is the shortened form of
我很好，我
is omitted, as it's understood from context. After this is
你呢？
and you.
你呢？
First is
你
you.
你
Next is
呢？
which means something like how about in this context.
呢？呢？
Together,
你呢？
literally, you how about, but translates as and you.
你呢？
Welcome to Can Do Chinese by ChineseClass101.com.
大家好，我是李英如。Hi everyone, Yinru Li here. In this lesson, you will learn how to make small talk about the weather.
This is Karen Lee. She meets Zhenchen Zhou, her neighbor, and starts a conversation by saying, "It's really hot today."
今天真热，
Listen to the conversation and focus on Karen's comment. Ready?
今天真热，
是啊，真热。
Once more with the English translation.
今天真热，
It's really hot today.
是啊，真热。
Yeah, really hot.
Let's take a closer look at the conversation.
Do you remember how Karen says, "It's really hot today"?
今天真热，
First is
今天，
today.
今天，今天，
Next is
真
really or truly.
真真
After that is
热
hot.
热热，
Altogether it's
今天真热，
literally today really hot, but it translates as it's really hot today.
今天真热，
Note when describing something in Chinese, you can think of the adverb as linking the subject and adjective. In this sentence, the adverb
真
acts as a linking word for the subject
今天
and the adjective.
热
Let's take a closer look at the response.
Do you remember how the neighbor says, "Yeah, really hot"?
是啊，真热。
First is
是
translating as yes in this context.
是是
Next is
啊
the modal particle, which here adds emphasis to the response.
啊啊，
Together,
是啊
translates as a colloquial and emphatic yeah or yes in this context.
是啊，
After that, Zhenchen repeats,
真热
really hot.
真热，
Altogether, it's
是啊，真热，
yeah, really hot.
是啊， 真热。
The pattern is
今天真 weather-related adjective.
it's really weather-related adjective today.
今天真 weather-related adjective.
To use this pattern, simply replace weather-related adjective with another weather-related adjective. Imagine it's cold.
冷冷冷
Say, it's really cold today. Ready?
今天真冷。
It's really cold today.
今天真冷。
Let's look at some more examples. Listen and repeat or speak along with the native speakers.
今天真热。今天真热。
今天真冷。今天真冷。
今天真暖和。今天真暖和。
今天真凉快。今天真凉快。
天气真好。天气真好。Did you notice I used a different pattern? 天气真好。
The weather is really nice.
天气真好。
First is
天气
weather.
天气天气
Next is
真
really.
真
After that is
好
good or nice.
好好
Altogether, it's
天气真好。
literally weather really nice, but it translates as the weather is really nice. This pattern is
天气真 weather-related adjective.
the weather is really weather-related adjective.
天气真 weather-related adjective.
Welcome to Can Do Chinese by ChineseClass101.com.
大家好，我是李音如。Hi everyone, Yin Ru Li here. In this lesson, you will learn how to talk about the weather in Chinese.
This is Karen Lee, and she's in rainy Beijing. She's on a long-distance call with Xiao Yun-Xu, her former homestay mother. Xiao Yun-Xu asks, "How's the weather?"
天气怎么样？
Listen to the conversation and focus on the response. Ready?
天气怎么样？在下雨。
Once more with the English translation.
天气怎么样？
How's the weather?
在下雨。
It's raining.
Let's take a closer look at the conversation.
Do you remember how Xiao Yun-Xu asks, "How's the weather?"
天气怎么样？
First is
天气
weather.
天气天气
Next is
怎么样？
how is. In this context, as in, how is the weather?
怎么样？怎么样？
Together,
天气怎么样？
literally, weather how is, but translates as, how's the weather?
天气怎么样？
Let's take a closer look at the response.
Do you remember how Karen says, "It's raining"?
在下雨。
First is,
在
which literally means at. However, when
在
is followed by a verb, it indicates the progressive tense, describing an ongoing action.
在
Here
在
is followed by,
下雨
which means to rain.
下雨
It can be divided into two parts. First is
下
to come down in this context.
下
Next is
雨
rain.
雨
Together,
下雨
to rain.
下雨
Altogether,
在下雨
translates as it's raining.
在下雨。
The pattern is
在 weather-related verb
it's weather-related verb ing.
在 weather-related verb
To use this pattern, simply replace weather-related verb with a verb phrase to describe what is going on with current weather conditions. Imagine you're in Harbin, and it's snowing.
下雪下雪下雪
Say, it's snowing. Ready?
在下雪，
It's snowing.
在下雪，
When using 怎么样 to ask how something is in Chinese, the pattern is subject plus 怎么样. In the conversation, 天气 the subject plus 怎么样. 天气怎么样? How's the weather?
Let's look at some more examples. Listen and repeat, or speak along with the native speakers.
在下雨。在下雨。
在下雪，在下雪，
再出太阳。再出太阳。
在刮风。在刮风。
今天在下雨。今天在下雨。Did you notice I added the word 今天? 今天在下雨。
It's raining today. First is
今天
today.
今天今天
Next is
在
when
在
is followed by a verb. It's like the ing, as in raining.
在
After this is
下雨
to rain.
下雨
Together,
在下雨
it is raining.
在下雨
Note, the it is not used in Chinese. Altogether,
今天在下雨
translating as it's raining today.
今天在下雨
今天在下雨。
Let's try another. Imagine it's snowing today.
今天在下雪
It's snowing today.
今天在下雪
Welcome to Can Do Chinese by ChineseClass101.com.
大家好，我是李英如。 Hi everyone, I'm Yanru Li. In this lesson, you will learn how to ask for clarification.
This is Sasha Lee, and she meets her neighbor, Huaoran Huang, for the first time in the lobby of their building. Haoran Huang introduces himself by saying, "Hello, my name is Haoran Huang."
你好，我叫黄浩然。
Sasha can't catch his name and asks for clarification. Listen to the conversation and focus on Sasha's request. Ready?
你好，我叫黄浩然。
不好意思，请再说一遍。请说慢一点。
黄浩然。
Once more with the English translation.
你好，我叫黄浩然。
Hello, my name is Haoran Huang.
不好意思，请再说一遍。请说慢一点。
Sorry, please say it one more time. Please say it slowly.
黄浩然。
Huang Haoran.
Let's take a closer look at the conversation.
Do you remember how Haoran introduces himself?
你好，我叫黄浩然。
First is
你好，
meaning hello.
你好，你好，
When meeting someone for the first time, you often start with
你好，
it can be used in both formal and informal situations. Next is
我叫黄浩然，
my name is Haoran Huang.
我叫黄浩然，我叫黄浩然，
First is
我
I.
我
Next is
叫
meaning to be called in this context.
叫
Together,
我叫
literally means I'm called, but translates as my name is.
我叫
Next is the neighbor's full name.
黄浩然，
First is his family name,
黄
followed by his given name.
浩然，
For Chinese names, the order is family name followed by given names. Altogether, it's
你好，我叫黄浩然，
hello, my name is Haoran Huang.
你好，我叫黄浩然。
Sasha can't catch his name. Do you remember how she asks, "Sorry, please say it one more time. Please say it slowly."
不好意思，请再说一遍。请说慢一点。
First is
不好意思，
which literally means to be embarrassed, but it translates as sorry in this context.
不好意思，不好意思，
Next is
请再说一遍，
please say it one more time.
请再说一遍。
This has several parts. First is
请
please.
请
After this is
再
again.
再
Next is
说
say, as in please say it again.
说
Last is
一遍
meaning one time.
一 遍，一遍，
Altogether
请再说一遍。
literally means, please again say one time, but it translates as, please say it one more time.
请再说一遍。
The last part of Sasha's response is,
请说慢一点儿。
please say it slowly. First is,
请，
please.
请
Next is,
说，
say.
说
After that is,
慢，
slow.
慢，慢
And finally,
一点儿，
meaning a little.
一点儿，一点儿。
Pronunciation note. People in the north part of China tend to pronounce this as
一点儿，一点儿。
combining
慢，
with
一点儿，慢一点儿。
means slow down a bit or slowly.
慢，一点儿，慢一点儿。
Altogether, it's
请说慢一点儿。
literally, please say slow a little, but translates as, please say it slowly.
请说慢一点儿。
Sasha's whole response is,
不好意思，请再说一遍，请说慢一点儿。
不好意思，请再说一遍。请说慢一点。
Finally, Haoran replies by stating his name again.
黄浩然
Huang Haoran.
Let's look at the expressions once more. Listen and repeat. 不好意思，不好意思。请再说一遍，请再说一遍。请说慢一点，请说慢一点。不好意思，请再说一遍。不好意思，请再说一遍。不好意思，请再说一遍，请说慢一点。不好意思，请再说一遍，请说慢一点。能再说一遍吗？能再说一遍吗？ Did you notice how I used a different expression? 能再说一遍吗？
Can you say it one more time?
能再说一遍吗？
This request starts with
能，
meaning can, as in to be able.
能，能
And it ends with
吗？
the question marking particle, indicating question.
吗？能吗？
Sentence pattern is used to make a polite request. Note the answer to a
吗？
question should confirm or negate the verb. In this case, yes, you can, or no, you can't. Between
能
and
吗？
is what we've learned earlier.
再说一遍，
Say it one more time.
再说一遍。
Together,
能再说一遍吗？
can you say it one more time? Or, could you say it one more time?
能再说一遍吗？
Welcome to Can Do Chinese by ChineseClass101.com.
大家好，我是李英如。Hi everyone, I'm Yinru Li. In this lesson, you will learn how to ask what a word is in Chinese.
This is Ben Li, and he's at a cafe doing a language exchange with his classmate, Lu Liu. It's the Chinese portion of their language exchange, and he points at the textbook and asks, "How do you say textbook in Chinese?"
Textbook 用中文怎么说？
Listen to the conversation and focus on the question. Ready?
Textbook 用中文怎么说？
课本
Once more with the English translation.
Textbook 用中文怎么说？
How do you say textbook in Chinese?
课本
Textbook.
Let's take a closer look at the conversation.
Do you remember how Ben asks, "How do you say textbook in Chinese?"
Textbook 用中文怎么说？
First is the English word textbook. Next is
用
to use.
用
After that is
中文
Chinese, as in the Chinese language or writing.
中文
Together,
用中文
using Chinese, or, in more natural English, in Chinese.
用中文
Next is
怎么
meaning how.
怎么
Last is
说
to say.
说
Together,
怎么说
literally how to say, but translating as how do you say.
怎么说
Altogether,
Textbook 用中文怎么说
literally, textbook using Chinese how to say. But it translates as how do you say textbook in Chinese?
Textbook 用中文怎么说？
Let's take a closer look at the response.
Do you remember how Lu tells Ben the Chinese word for textbook?
课本
课本
Textbook.
课本
课本
The pattern is
English word 用中文怎么说
how do you say English word in Chinese?
English word 用中文怎么说
To use this question pattern, simply replace the English word placeholder with the word you want to know. Imagine you want to know the Chinese word for pen. Ask, how do you say pen in Chinese? Ready?
Pen 用中文怎么说？
How do you say pen in Chinese?
Pen 用中文怎么说？
When you don't know how to call something in Chinese and you want to keep the conversation in Chinese, you can point and say, "How do you say this in Chinese?"
Simply replace the English word with
这个
meaning this.
这个这个这个用中文怎么说
How do you say this in Chinese?
这个用中文怎么说
If the thing is far away from you, use
那个
that.
那个那个 那个用中文怎么说？
How do you say that in Chinese?
那个用中文怎么说？
Pronunciation note. There are two ways to pronounce this and that in Chinese. For this,
这个
or
这个
for that,
那个
or
那个这个
and
那个
are used more often in colloquial speech. Keeping the conversation in Chinese as long as possible is a great tactic to learn Chinese. Let's look at some more examples. Listen and repeat or speak along with the native speakers.
Textbook 用中文怎么说
课本、
？Textbook 用中文怎么说？Pen 用中文怎么说
笔、
？Pen 用中文怎么说？这个用中文怎么说？
筷子、
这个用中文怎么说？那个用中文怎么说？
铅笔、
那个用中文怎么说？
这个的中文是什么？
是课本。
这个的中文是什么？ Did you notice I use a different pattern? 这个的中文是什么？
What's this in Chinese? First is
这个
this.
这个
Next is the possessive marking particle
的
After that is
中文
Chinese language.
中文
Together,
这个的中文
literally means the Chinese of this, but translates as the Chinese for this.
这个的中文
Next is
是
here, think of it like the is, as in the Chinese for this is.
是
Last is
什么
what.
什么
Altogether,
这个的中文是什么？
literally, the Chinese of this is what, but it translates as what's this in Chinese?
这个的中文是什么？
What's this in Chinese?
这个的中文是什么？
This is a very useful pattern for using Chinese to learn Chinese. You should be aware of this pattern, but you won't need it for this lesson. Welcome to Can Do Chinese by ChineseClass101.com.
嗨，大家好，我是林音如。Hi everyone, I'm Yinru Li. In this lesson, you will learn how to ask for something at a grocery store.
This is Ben Lee, and he's at a small grocery store. After finding something he likes, he points and says, "Give me that, please."
请给我那个。
Listen to the conversation. Focus on Ben's request. Ready?
请给我那个。
好，给您。
Once more with the English translation.
请给我那个。
Give me that, please.
好，给您。
Okay, here you go.
Let's take a closer look at how Ben asks for item without knowing its name.
Do you remember how Ben Lee says, "Give me that, please"?
请给我那个。
First is
请
please.
请
Here it's a polite word used at the beginning of a request. Next is
给我
give me.
给我
First is
给
to give.
给
After that is
我
translating as me in this context.
我
Together, the first part of the sentence is
请给我
please give me.
请给我
Pronunciation note. When there are 3 third tones in a row, the first 2 change to the second tone. Listen to the pronunciation again.
请给我请给我
Last is
那个
translating as that.
那个
Translation note.
那个
Could also translate as that one, as the second character is
个
which is a universal measure word.
个
Pronunciation note.
那
Can be pronounced as
那
or
那
is more colloquial and what is used here. Altogether,
请给我那个
literally, please give me that. Or in more natural English, give me that please.
请给我那个。
Do you remember how the shopkeeper says, "Okay, here you go"?
好，给您。
First is
好
literally good, but translates as okay in this context.
好
Next is
给您
translating as here you go.
给您
First is
给
to give.
给
Next is
您
the polite form of you.
您
As the clerk is talking to a customer, he uses
您
to show respect. In more casual cases, you may hear the more colloquial form of you.
你
Together,
给您
literally means give you, but in this case it translates as here you go.
给您
Altogether, the clerk responds with
好给您
okay, here you go.
好，给您。
The pattern is
请给我 item
give me item, please.
请给我 item
To use this pattern, simply replace the item placeholder with the thing you want. Imagine you'd like some water.
水
Say, give me some water, please. Ready?
请给我水，
Give me some water, please.
请给我水。
Let's look at some more examples. Listen and repeat or speak along with the native speakers.
请给我那个。请给我那个。
请给我水，请给我水。 请给我水和香蕉。请给我水和香蕉。
请给我这个。请给我这个。
我要水，谢谢。我要水，谢谢。Did you notice how I used a different pattern? 我要水，谢谢。
Literally, I want water, thanks. But translating as, I'd like some water, thanks.
我要水，谢谢。
First is,
我
translating as I in this context.
我
Next is,
要
to want.
要
Last is,
水
water.
水
Finally, to make the request sound more polite, is
谢谢
thanks.
谢谢。
Altogether, it's
我要水，谢谢。
in Chinese, pointing at something and using the pattern I want is not considered rude. Actually, it's pretty common and colloquial. However, adding a
谢谢
thanks at the end of your request definitely makes the request more polite, as in the example.
我要水，谢谢。
I'd like some water, thanks. Welcome to Can Do Chinese by ChineseClass101.com.
Hi, 大家好，我是李英如。Hi everyone, I'm Yanru Li. In this lesson, you will learn how to ask if a store has something.
This is Sasha Lee. She's at a small grocery store and she wants to buy some salt. She gets the clerk's attention and says, "Hello, is there any salt?"
你好，有盐吗？
Listen to the conversation. Focus on Sasha's question. Ready?
你好，有盐吗？
有，在这里。
Once more with the English translation.
你好，有盐吗？
Hello, is there any salt?
有，在这里。
Yes, it's here.
Let's take a closer look at the conversation.
Do you remember how Sasha asks, "Hello, is there any salt?"
你好，有盐吗？
First is,
你好，
"Hello,"
你好，你好。
In this case, the speaker uses this greeting to get the clerk's attention. Next is,
有
translating as, "There is," in this case.
有
Translation note,
有
can also translate as to have. After that is,
盐
salt.
盐
Together,
有盐
literally means, there is salt. Last is the question marker,
吗吗吗吗
turns a statement into a yes or no question. Together,
有盐吗
literally, there is salt, but translates as, is there any salt?
有盐吗
Translation note, this phrase can also translate as, do you have any salt? Altogether,
你好，有盐吗
hello, is there any salt?
你好，有盐吗？
Let's take a closer look at the response.
Do you remember how the clerk says, "Yes, it's here"?
有，在这里。
The first part of the response is,
有
which translates as yes in this context, as it answers the yes or no question containing the verb,
有有盐吗？
is there any salt?
有
Yes, there is salt. To answer a yes or no question in Chinese, always echo the verb or adjective that's used in the question. In this case,
有
after this is,
在这里，
translating as it's here.
在这里，在这里。
This phrase has two parts. First is,
在
meaning at. It's used to locate things in this context.
在
Next is,
这里，
here.
这里，这里，
Together,
在这里。
literally means at here, but translates as it's here.
在这里。
Note, the subject is omitted as it's understood in the context. Altogether,
有在这里。
yes, it's here.
有，在这里。
The pattern is,
你好，有 item 吗？
hello, is there any item?
你好，有 item 吗？
To use this pattern, simply replace item with something else you're looking for. Imagine you're looking for milk.
牛奶，牛奶，牛奶。
Say, hello, is there any milk? Ready?
你好，有牛奶吗？
Hello, is there any milk?
你好，有牛奶吗？
Besides using 你好, another polite way to get someone's attention and start a question is to use 请问. 请问 literally means please ask, but translates as may I ask or excuse me when asking a question. 请问请问 For example, 请问有盐吗? Excuse me, is there any salt? In most cases, Chinese doesn't make a distinction between singular and plural nouns. You will use the same pattern when you're looking for salt, an apple, or a dozen apples. For example, 有苹果吗 can translate as are there any apples? Or is there an apple? Depending on the context. The English translation may alternate between singular and plural, but the Chinese pattern remains the same.
Let's look at some more examples. Listen and repeat or speak along with the native speakers.
你好，有盐吗？你好，有盐吗？
你好，有牛奶吗？你好，有牛奶吗？
你好，有苹果吗？你好，有苹果吗？
你好，有酱油吗？你好，有酱油吗？
你好，有没有糖？你好，有没有糖 Did you notice how I used a different pattern? 你好，有没有糖？
Hello, is there any sugar?
你好，有没有糖？
The speaker uses
有没有？有没有？
means have or not have, or there is or there isn't in this context.
有没有？
First is
有
there is.
有
Next is
没有？
there isn't.
没有
Together,
有没有？
there is or there isn't.
有没有？
Note, for this
有没有？
pattern, you don't need the question marker
吗？
at the end of the question. After that is
糖
sugar.
糖糖。
Altogether,
你好，有没有糖？
literally, hello. Is there or isn't there any sugar? But translates as hello, is there any sugar?
你好，有没有糖？
The pattern is
你好，有没有 item？
hello, is there item? You should be aware of this, but for this lesson you won't need it. Welcome to Can Do Chinese by ChineseClass101.com.
大家好，我是李嫣如。Hi everyone, I'm Yanru Li. In this lesson, you will learn how to ask how much something costs.
This is Ben Lee, and he's shopping at a small grocery store. He sees a snack with no visible price tag and asks, "How much is this?"
这个多少钱？
Listen to the conversation. Focus on Ben's question. Ready?
这个多少钱？
2块。
Once more with the English translation.
这个多少钱？
How much is this?
2块。
2 kwai.
Let's take a closer look at the conversation.
Do you remember how Ben asks, "How much is this?"
这个多少钱？
Ben's question starts with
这个
this.
这个
This word can be divided into 2 parts. First is
这
this.
这
Pronunciation note.
这
Can be pronounced as
这
or
这
is more common in everyday speech. Next is
个
which is a universal measure word.
个
Together
这个
means this one or this.
这个
While
这个
can translate as this one or this, for this lesson we'll use this. After that is
多少钱
meaning how much money.
多少钱
The first part is
多少
how many or how much in this context.
多少多少
Note the literal meaning of the Chinese characters
多
many and
少
few. So you could think of it like a lot or a little money. But it translates as how much.
多少
Next is
钱
money.
钱，钱，
Together
多少钱？
means how much money or how much.
多少钱？
Altogether
这个多少钱？
literally means this how much money, but translates as how much is this?
这个多少钱？
Let's take a closer look at the response.
Do you remember how the shop clerk says, 2 kwai?
2块。
First is
两，
2,
两，
is used to say 2 when followed by a measure word.
两，两，
Next is
块，
which literally means chunk or piece, but is also used as a unit for Chinese money in colloquial speech.
块，块，
Together
2块，
means 2 kwai.
2块。
Note, at the time of this lesson, 2 kwai buys a bottle of water. The pattern is
item 多少钱
how much is item?
item 多少钱
To use this pattern, simply replace the item placeholder with the thing you'd like to know the price of. Imagine you'd like to know the price of a coffee.
咖啡
Coffee.
咖啡咖啡
Ask, how much is a coffee? Ready?
咖啡多少钱？
How much is a coffee?
咖啡多少钱？
There are two ways to say the number 2. When used to represent the number 2, such as in counting or a phone number, the number 2 is pronounced as R. For example, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. When used to express quantity, use 两 plus a measure word to say 2 of something. For example, 2块 2块 2个蛋糕 2 cakes 2杯咖啡 2 cups of coffee.
Let's look at some more examples. Listen and repeat or speak along with the native speakers.
这个多少钱？这个多少钱？
咖啡多少钱？咖啡多少钱？蛋糕多少钱？蛋糕多少钱？
那个多少钱？那个多少钱？
多少钱？多少钱？ Did you notice how I omitted 这个？多少钱？
How much? When you're asking how much something is, and it's understood what you're speaking about. For example, when asking by pointing at something, you can omit the subject. The pattern is
多少钱
you should be aware of this pattern, but for this lesson, we'll use the sentence pattern
item 多少钱
how much is item. Welcome to Can Do Chinese by ChineseClass101.com.
大家好，我是李嫣如。Hi everyone, I'm Yanru Li. In this lesson, you will learn how to order at a restaurant.
This is Mark Lee. and he's at a restaurant with his wife. Mark says to the waiter, "Waiter, I'd like some water, thanks."
服务员，我要水，谢谢。
Listen to the conversation and focus on Mark's request. Ready?
服务员，我要水，谢谢。
好，马上来。
Once more with the English translation.
服务员，我要水，谢谢。
Waiter, I'd like some water, thanks.
好，马上来。
Okay, coming right away.
Let's take a closer look at the conversation.
Do you remember how Mark asks for water? Waiter, I'd like some water, thanks.
服务员，我要水，谢谢。
First is
服务员，
meaning waiter or waitress, depending on the context.
服务员，服务员，
In this case, Mark Lee is calling Han Hu. So
服务员，
we'll translate as waiter. Next is
我，
I.
我
After that is
要
would like in this context.
要
Translation note.
要
Can also translate as to want. We'll use would like for this conversation. Next is
水
water.
水
Last is
谢谢
thanks.
谢谢
Altogether,
服务员，我要水，谢谢。
waiter, I'd like some water. Thanks.
服务员，我要水，谢谢。
Let's take a closer look at the response.
Do you remember the waiter's response? Okay, coming right away.
好，马上来。
First is
好，
okay in this context. It's used to show agreement with the speaker's request.
好，
The second part of the response is
马上来，
it can be divided into two parts. First is
马上，
right away or immediately.
马上，
Next is
来，
to come.
来，
Together,
马上来，
literally means right away come, but translates as coming right away.
马上来，
Altogether,
好，马上来，
okay, coming right away.
好，马上来。
The pattern is
我要 item， 谢谢，
I'd like item, thanks.
我要 item， 谢谢。
To use this pattern, simply replace the item placeholder with the object you are requesting. Imagine you'd like some coffee.
咖啡，咖啡，
Say, I'd like some coffee, thanks. Ready?
我要咖啡，谢谢。
I'd like some coffee, thanks.
我要咖啡，谢谢。
Let's look at some more examples. Listen and repeat or speak along with the native speakers.
我要水，谢谢。我要水，谢谢。
我要咖啡，谢谢。我要咖啡，谢谢。
我要炒饭，谢谢。我要炒饭，谢谢。
我要菜单，谢谢。我要菜单，谢谢。
我要一个勺子。我要一个勺子。Did you notice I used a different pattern? 我要一个勺子。
I'd like a spoon. First is
我
I.
我
After that is
要
would like.
要
Let's move to the end of the sentence.
勺子
Spoon.
勺子勺子
Before this is
一个
meaning one of something.
一个一个
In this case,
一个勺子
one spoon.
一个勺子一个
Has two parts. First is the number 1.
一一一
After that is the general measure word.
个个个
In Chinese, you'll need a measure word after the number and before the noun when talking about a certain number of things. The measure word varies depending on the type of object. For this lesson, we'll use the general measure word
个
together,
一个
one of something.
一个一个
Pronunciation note. When
一
is followed by a fourth tone, it changes from the first tone to the second tone. Listen to the pronunciation again.
一个一个
Altogether,
我要一个勺子
I'd like one spoon. But in more natural English, I'd like a spoon.
我要一个勺子
Welcome to Can Do Chinese by ChineseClass101.com.
大家好，我是李嫣如。Hi everyone, I'm Yan-Ru Li. In this lesson, you'll learn how to order two or more of something while pointing.
This is Karen Lee. And she's waiting in line at a coffee shop with her husband. The barista turns to Karen and says, "What would you like?"
您要什么？
Listen to the conversation and focus on Karen's response. Ready?
您要什么？
2份这个。
Once more with the English translation.
您要什么？
What would you like?
2份这个。
Two of these.
Let's take a closer look at the conversation.
Do you remember how the waiter says, "What would you like?"
您要什么？
First is
您
the formal you when addressing people of higher social status, such as seniors and customers.
您
Next is
要
to want or to need, but translating as would like in this context.
要
After that is
什么
what.
什么？什么？
Together,
您要什么？
literally, you want what, but translates as, what would you like?
您要什么？
Let's take a closer look at the response.
Do you remember how Karen says, 2 of these?
2份这个，
First is
2
2. This way of saying the number 2 is used before a measure word.
2 2
Next is
份
a measure word meaning serving or order.
份份
Together,
2份
2 orders.
2份
After that is
这个
this.
这个这个
Pronunciation note.
这个
Can be pronounced as
这个
or
这个这个
is more common in everyday speech. Altogether,
2份这个
2 orders of these. But in more natural English, 2 of these.
2份这个，
Note, this pattern is the shortened form of
我要2份这个
I would like 2 of these.
我要2份这个我
I,
我
after that is
要
would like in this context.
要
The speaker omits,
我要
as it is understood from the conversation.
2份这个，
The pattern is
number 份这个
number of these.
number 份这个
To use this pattern, simply replace the number placeholder with the number of items you're requesting. Imagine you'd like 3 of something you don't know the Chinese word for. 3.
3 3 3
Say, 3 of these. Ready?
3份这个
3 of these.
3份这个
When talking about a specific number of things in Chinese, not only do you need a number, but also a measure word before the noun. For example, in our dialogue, we use the number 2, 2, plus the measure word 份, order, before the item. In Chinese, there are hundreds of measure words for different types of things. A good measure word to start with for beginners is 个, which is a general measure word that goes with almost everything. For example, 一个面包 one piece of bread, 两个香蕉 two bananas, or 三个这个 three of these.
Let's look at some more examples. Listen and repeat or speak along with the native speakers.
2份这个，2份这个，
3份这个3份这个
4份这个，4份这个
1份这个1份这个
要2份这个和1份这个。 要2份这个和1份这个。Did you notice how I used a different pattern? 要2份这个和1份这个。
I would like 2 of these and 1 of these. First is
要
a shortened form of
我要
I'd like.
要
The speaker omitted the subject,
我
I, and used only the verb
要
would like.
要2份这个
I'd like 2 of these.
要2份这个。
When pointing out multiple items, you can join them with the conjunction
和
meaning and.
和
Pronunciation note: when
一
1 is followed by a 4th tone, it changes to the 2nd tone,
一
such as
一份
here is the variation pattern.
要 number 份这个和 number 份这个。
I'd like number of these and number of these. You should be aware of this pattern, but you won't need it for this lesson. Welcome to Can Do Chinese by ChineseClass101.com.
大家好，我是李嫣如。Hi everyone, I'm Yanru Li. In this lesson, you will learn how to give your email address.
This is Karen Lee, and she's at City Hall registering her address. The civil servant who is helping her asks, "What is your email address?"
您的邮箱地址是什么？
Listen to the conversation and focus on the response. Ready?
您的邮箱地址是什么？
我的邮箱地址是 karen@yinnolan.com。
Once more with the English translation.
您的邮箱地址是什么？
What is your email address?
我的邮箱地址是 karen@yinnolan.com。
My email address is karen@inolang.com.
Let's take a closer look at the conversation.
Do you remember how the civil servant asks, "What is your email address?"
您的邮箱地址是什么？
First is
您的
your.
您的
This starts with
您
you when using formal Chinese.
您
Is often used to show respect to a person, such as a senior citizen or a customer.
您
Now, you might be more familiar with
你
meaning you.
你
As this is a city office setting, the speaker chooses to use the more formal.
您
Next is
的
the possessive marking particle.
的
Think of
的
as a way to indicate possession. The word it follows possesses the thing that comes after it. In this sentence, it marks
您
you as the possessor. Together, it's
您的
a formal way to say your.
您的
Next is
邮箱地址
email address.
邮箱地址邮箱地址
There are 2 parts to this. First is
邮箱
literally mailbox, but it refers to the electronic mailbox in this context.
邮箱邮箱
Next is
地址
address.
地址地址
Together it's
邮箱地址
email address.
邮箱地址
Remember this because you'll see it again in Karen's response. Next is,
是
in this case, it's like the is in what is your email address?
是是
Last is
什么
what?
什么什么
Altogether it's
您的邮箱地址是什么？
this literally means your email address is what, but translates as what is your email address?
您的邮箱地址是什么？
Remember this request. You'll hear it again later.
Let's take a closer look at the response.
Do you remember how Karen says, my email address is karen@inolang.com?
"我的邮箱地址是 karen@inolan.com."
First is
我的
my.
我的
This starts with
我
I.
我我
After this is
的
the possessive marking particle.
的
Together it's
我的
my.
我的
Next, do you remember the word for email address?
邮箱地址
Email address.
邮箱地址
Together,
我的邮箱地址
my email address.
我的邮箱地址
Next is
是
here it's like the is in my email address is.
是
Next is Karen's email address.
KAREN@ inolan.com
First is the name Karen spelled out.
KAREN
Next is the @ sign, usually pronounced as
艾特
Next is Inolang. Most Chinese people would pronounce it as
inolan.
After that is
点
dot.
点
Note, in North China, people tend to put an ER sound after the final syllable of many words. So in a northern accent,
点
would be pronounced as
点儿
Last is com, usually pronounced as
com.
Together, Karen's email address is
KAREN@inolan.com
Altogether it's
我的邮箱地址是 KAREN@inolan.com
My email address is karen@inolang.com.
我的邮箱地址是 karen@ innolan.com。
The pattern is
我的邮箱地址是 email address。
My email address is email address.
我的邮箱地址是 email address。
To use this pattern, simply replace the email address placeholder with your email address. Imagine your email address is
liping@innolan.com。
Say, my email address is liping@inolang.com. Ready?
我的邮箱地址是 liping@innolan.com。
My email address is liping@inolang.com.
我的邮箱地址是 liping@innolan.com。
In China, Mandarin is often referred to as 普通话, meaning common dialect or common tongue, and almost everyone in China speaks it. Apart from this common dialect, there are over 200 local dialects in China. People from different parts of China are likely to have a variety of accents when speaking Mandarin and foreign languages. The way English letters and words are pronounced in this lesson may be different depending on where the speaker is from. When having difficulty understanding someone in Chinese or English, such as when getting someone's email address, it's better to double-check with the person you're speaking with to make sure you understood correctly.
Let's look at some more examples. Listen and repeat or speak along with the native speakers.
我的邮箱地址是 karen@innolan.com。
我的邮箱地址是 liping@innolan.com。
我的邮箱地址是 ben@innolan.com。
我的邮箱地址是 lin@innolan.com。
我的电子邮箱是 yl@innolan.com. Did you notice how I gave my email address? 我的电子邮箱是 yl@innolan.com.
My email address is yl@inolang.com. Instead of
邮箱地址
the speaker said,
电子邮箱
which literally means electronic mailbox, but translates as email.
电子邮箱
The pattern is
我的电子邮箱是 email address。
my email is email address.
我的电子邮箱是 email address。
This can be shortened even further.
yl@ ignorant 点 com。
The entire first part,
我的电子邮箱是
my email is omitted here because it's clear from the context the speaker is giving their email. This is the shortest answer to a request to get your email address. You should be aware of this sentence pattern, but for this lesson, we use the pattern.
我的邮箱地址是 email address。
My email address is email address. Welcome to Can Do Chinese by ChineseClass101.com.
大家好，我是李嫣如。Hi everyone, I'm Yanru Li. In this lesson, you'll learn how to talk about your hobbies in Chinese.
This is Haoran Huang. He's talking to his neighbor, Jason Shu, in the lobby. They're having a conversation, and Haoran asks, "What do you like to do?"
你喜欢做什么？
Listen to the conversation and focus on the response. Ready?
你喜欢做什么？
我喜欢钓鱼。
Once more with the English translation.
你喜欢做什么？
What do you like to do?
我喜欢钓鱼。
I like to fish.
Let's take a closer look at the conversation.
Do you remember how Haoran Huang asks, "What do you like to do?"
你喜欢做什么？
First is
你
you.
你
Next is
喜欢
like, as in you like.
喜欢
After this is
做
to do.
做
Last is
什么
meaning what.
什么
Altogether,
你喜欢做什么
literally, you like to do what? But it translates as, what do you like to do?
你喜欢做什么？
Let's take a closer look at the response.
Do you remember how Jason Shu says, "I like to fish"?
我喜欢钓鱼。
First is
我
I.
我
Next is
喜欢
like, as in I like.
喜欢
Last is
钓鱼
to fish.
钓鱼
Altogether,
我喜欢钓鱼
I like to fish.
我喜欢钓鱼。
The pattern is
我喜欢 activity
I like activity.
我喜欢 activity
To use this pattern, simply replace the verb placeholder with an activity you like to do. Imagine you like to swim.
游泳
Say, I like to swim. Ready?
我喜欢游泳。
I like to swim.
我喜欢游泳。
This pattern can also be used with verb phrases. 我喜欢 activity. For example, to play basketball. 打篮球.
First is
打
to play in this context.
打打篮球
Basketball.
篮球篮球打篮球
To play basketball.
打篮球
我喜欢打篮球。
I like to play basketball. Let's look at some examples. Listen and repeat or speak along with the native speakers.
我喜欢钓鱼。我喜欢钓鱼。
我喜欢游泳。我喜欢游泳。
我喜欢打篮球。我喜欢打篮球。
我喜欢旅游。我喜欢旅游。我爱做饭。我爱做饭。
Did you notice how the last speaker uses a different pattern?
"我爱做饭。
I love cooking. First is
我
I.
我
Next is
爱
love.
爱爱
Last is
做饭
to cook.
做饭做饭
Altogether,
我爱做饭
I love cooking.
我爱做饭
This pattern is
我爱 activity
I love activity.
我爱 activity
You should be aware of this, but for this lesson, we'll use the pattern.
我喜欢 activity
I like activity.
我喜欢 activity
Want to speed up your language learning? Take your very first lesson with us. You'll start speaking in minutes and master real conversations. Sign up for your free lifetime account. Just click the link in the description.